CloudDB, shaping your new normal.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending where you are around the world. Welcome to the 2021 APEC Groundbreakers Virtual Tour by Apaco UC. This year, our event will be the biggest one ever done with 144 sessions, including normal sessions, workshops, and hands-on labs from 100 different speakers over 18 days. Also, it will cover sessions in 4 different languages. Please remember to register to as many sessions as you can. This way, you'll be able to access our replays until December 30. I would like to say thanks to all Oracle user groups and Java user groups, all 16 of them that made this event possible, and also to our sponsors, Oracle Groundbreakers, and your main sponsor, CloudDB. Now for today's session, IaaS, Oracle Database as a Service, Autonomous, ExaCS, and Cloud at Customer, How to Choose the Right Database Service on OCI by Biju Thomas. Please feel free to ask questions at any time by using the chat window on the right lower corner of your screen, and Biju will be answering our questions at his convenience or at the end of the session. If you have any issues during the presentation, please feel free to ask and let me know at any time by using the same chat window. Now, without any more further ado, I want to leave you with this amazing session by Biju Thomas. Biju, the room is yours.
Thank you, Francisco. Thank you for that introduction, and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are. My name is Biju Thomas. So today I'll be talking to you about the various database options available on OCI. Before I start on OCI, let me give you a quick introduction about me. I work on the Oracle e-business suite and Oracle database systems for the last 25 plus years. Work for data intensity. I'm an Oracle ACE director. And now I concentrate on migrating Oracle workloads to the public cloud. And that includes OCI, Azure, and AWS. I do solution architecture, workload analysis, and stuff like that. I have a blog, bijus.com, and I'm also active in the social media and have a few books. I mean, they are a little bit dated. The latest book was about 5 years back. A quick intro about the company I work for. Data Intensity. Data Intensity is a managed Oracle services company. We manage complex Oracle workloads on any cloud, delivering high-touch quality service. That's the mission statement. So we do cloud migration and managed services on anything Oracle. That's quickly, and there is one more slide with all the solutions we do. One differentiator for Data Intensity, I would say, is Data Intensity is we have an office in Australia, and we do license management and license analysis for our customers. So that's a differentiator, and we also do Oracle e-business suite functional services as well, among other services we have. So let's talk about OCI quickly. This is a 90-minute session. I do not think it's going to take 90 minutes, but it'll be more than an hour for sure. So OCI. OCI has a lot of options for databases, and especially for Oracle database. I mean, you have multiple flavors available. So which is the right Oracle database service? Whatever you see in that in my screen here, the red boxes, they are all different services available on OCI. We will review each of the service. I mean, what are the features, and when you would choose one service over the other is what the objective of the session. Before I start on OCI, just wanted to throw it out there. There are other clouds also where you can run Oracle databases. It is not just the OCI database. OCI has OCI IaaS option. and the PaaS services like database as a service, ExaCS, autonomous, and cloud at customer. Those are the services we are going to review in this session. But Oracle has approved or authorized cloud environments, AWS and Azure, including AWS RDS. And I see customers running Oracle workloads on Google, GCP as well, and IBM Cloud, Alibaba, and other cloud as well. They are not certified or authorized environments, but I mean, once it is the thing when we used to have VMware certified versus supported thing, right? I mean, it's the same concept here also. So people are running it, and looks like I mean, it's not directly certified, but it runs. And there are other options, I mean, certified options like VMware on AWS, GCP, OCI, Azure. If you are today you are running VMware workloads, or if you are running Oracle on VMware, you can migrate that VMware cluster as is to any of these cloud environment as well. So those options are available, but we will dive into OCI in this 1 hour session. And on one other point before I go there, I mean, I may have a couple more slides on introduction and stuff here. Please bear with me. One thing quickly on OCI, the differentiator for OCI, where usually when we do the cloud analysis, where OCI wins is with the licenses. So Oracle databases, if you're running Oracle on-prem, you get one enterprise edition core license gets you up to 4 vCPU. That is with on Intel platform with the hyperthreading and the Intel core factor benefit. You can run up to 4 vCPUs on your OVM platform, for example, on-prem. The same number of vCPUs are available on OCI as well, whereas you don't have that core factor, or you lose that benefit when you migrate to AWS or Azure. So you don't have that. So if you have one enterprise edition license on RDS, I mean, you can use 2 vCPU. On Azure, you can use 2 vCPU. On OCI, you can use 2 OCPU. And on-prem, you can use 4 vCPU. And on OCI, the vCPU versus OCPU difference is that OCPU is a core. So it effectively translates to 2 threads. That'll be like 4 vCPU. 2 OCPUs will be like 4 vCPU if you want to compare to the other clouds. But number-wise, it's all 2, but the difference is OCPU versus vCPU. That's a difference. And one, if you are new to OCI, or if you are new to the databases on OCI, I highly encourage you to sign up for the Oracle Cloud training. It is the sign up is free until December 31st. I mean, we got a couple more weeks, and you can also take OCI certification exams free until December 31st. So if you haven't taken the opportunity to do this, this is a good opportunity. Sign up for it. And one thing is that, I mean, even if you don't take any certification before December 31st, if you sign up, if you subscribe to the cloud and the database subscriptions, you will get that subscription for at least 12 months, I think. So, I mean, those courses are will be available to you. That's what my experience when Oracle did the same about 18 months back. Those OCI certification courses were available to me, but I cannot take the free exams. I mean, the free exams were not available, but the courses are still available. And the courses are organized in a very methodical way. I mean, you have the classes, as you can see here, the foundation course. You have the courses available. Then there is a practice exam available. Then you can register register to the exam from the portal itself. So it's all in one place. You can get there. And these are some of the subscriptions, from my library. So go ahead and subscribe to the Oracle Data Management Learning subscription, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Learning subscription for sure. If you are if your company is OPN partner, you can also subscribe to that. And if you are interested in blockchain and development integrations, sign up for the application development learning subscription as well. So when you sign up for these subscriptions, they will be available to you for many more months, even past the December 31st date. So sign up for those subscriptions so you can make use of the lessons, the study materials. And if you're interested in certification, I would encourage you to at least start with the OCI foundations. And if you are an Oracle DBA or interested in Oracle database side, take the Oracle database services and Oracle database migration integration. Those are, if you're already an Oracle DBA, these are good certifications to have. To prove that you know something, and migrating to Oracle OCI cloud. So this is this will be good. So take the certifications whenever you can, but subscribe to the learning subscriptions, the database management and Oracle infrastructure. All right, those are my preamble there. Now getting into the OCI options. So we'll talk about the first option, whether in that menu I showed you before. So the first option is bare metal, virtual machine, and Exadata. So when you click on that from the OCI console, there are a lot of decisions to make. There are a lot of options. First decision to make is, do you want a virtual machine or bare metal? With the virtual machine, you have options to start from 1 OCPU till 24 OCPU. So you have that option. So one OCPU to 24 OCPU. That option is here. You can see here. I'm pointing with my pointer here. Then with the bare metal, there are two shapes available today. They are either 36 OCPU or 52 OCPU machines. And you have the option to enable or license the required number of OCPUs depending on the workload. But these are the shapes available there. You can turn off or license the number of OCPUs you need when you start start the database services on this bare metal machine. But these are the shapes available. Then on virtual machine and bare metal, you have to choose whether you want standard edition, enterprise edition, or enterprise edition high performance, or enterprise edition extreme performance. I'll show the differences in a later slide. What are the differences in these enterprise edition editions options? So that's another decision to make. Then you will also have the option to choose whether the database you are going to provision is for a transaction processing OLTP database, or you want it to be configured for data warehouse. These are some initialization parameter configuration differences you will have. You can override that at a later stage, but this is another decision you have to make. Then the other decision is whether you want to bring your own license, that you already acquired Oracle, you are using Oracle on-prem, which you are migrating to the OCI cloud. Then you can bring the license to OCI cloud. So that's a decision to make. Or if you want to keep using your on-prem licenses, or you do not own Oracle license, you can go with bring your the license included model, not the bring your own license, the license included model. You can go. So that's another decision you have to make. Then you will choose the database version. You can go from 11.2 through 21C. Those options are available. You can choose any version from 11.2 to 21C. Even though 11.2 is in extended support, you still have that option to choose 11.2. I think that option will be available for a few more months until first quarter 22, I think. or maybe later. I'm not 100% sure about that, but today it is available. So that's the decisions. I mean, so you need to you decide between VM or bare metal, then send the edition, then the license, then the type of database and the version of the database. That's the first decision point. Then quickly on the shapes. So the virtual machine shapes and memory are fixed. So you can there is no flexibility there. So if you want one OCPU, you will get 15 GB of memory. That's a RAM. If you go with two OCPUs, it is 30. You cannot really go with 8 OCPU and 240 GB of memory. I mean, that option is not there in the DBaaS VM shapes, because you have to go with fixed VM shapes that are available. I mean, they are the VM standard two shapes that usually you take. And then the bare metal, I already discussed. I mean, what is the bare metal option, and these are the bare metal option, and this comes with this much storage, locally attached storage. But you get the 16 terabyte of storage for the 52 OCPU machine, and the 9.4 terabyte of storage with the 36 OCPU bare metal shape. So just be aware of that. The OCPU and the memory for the VM machine, there is no flexibility there. Need to understand that. Then at a high level, I mean, when you provision the Oracle database on a VM or a bare metal for that matter, what do you get? You get a VM, a host, a Linux 7 host machine with a container database and a pluggable database. So that's architecture. It's if you are on 11.2 database, the pluggable database architecture is not there. So you will get a standard non-container database for 11.2 version. For 12.1 and above, you always get a container database and a pluggable database. I mean, that's the default architecture you get. And if you are on enterprise edition, high performance or extreme performance, you can create multiple pluggable databases, because you are allowed for multi-tenancy. If you are doing bring your own license, then you must have a multi-tenancy license to create additional pluggable databases if you are on 12.1 or 18C. If you're on 19C, you can create up to 3 pluggable databases, because the enterprise edition includes 3 pluggable databases. So just be aware of those restrictions, and with the multi-tenancy and multiple database options. And I'll show you. I believe I have a slide which talks about the multi-tenancy and when to choose the multi-tenancy and the database consolidation options. Oracle RAC, if you're using Oracle RAC today, Oracle RAC is available only on the VM shape. The bare metal shape doesn't have the Oracle RAC option there with the bare metal. Exadata obviously has RAC, but if you want to go with the virtual machine, you have to choose. If you want to go with RAC on a non-Exadata platform, you have to choose virtual machine, and there is a 2-node rack, and that's the maximum you can have. 2-node rack option available. You just choose the virtual machine, and you configure the DB system. By default, it will be 1. You change this to 2, then it becomes a rack system. Then in the database edition, you have to choose Extreme Edition. If you are using RAC or Active Data Guard, they are available only with the Extreme Performance option. The Enterprise Edition Extreme Performance option has RAC and Active Data Guard. So you have to choose that. And when you choose RAC, you do not have the option to choose Logical Volume Manager for your storage. You have to choose Oracle Grid Infrastructure. The LVM option, people sometimes choose it because the provisioning will be really quick, and you will see the data files. I mean, you have some different methods of backing up and stuff, but I always go with Grid Infrastructure. That's my choice. But there is, if there is a need for going with Logical Volume Manager, you could do that with single instance systems. That's possible on OCI VM. So that's about the Oracle VM and bare metal. Now in the same option, I mean you can also choose Exadata, because the menu item is bare metal VM and Exadata. And if you choose Exadata, the Exadata options are, you can choose an Exadata system, what Exadata system you want. You can go with X8, X7, or X6. Those Exadata options are available. You can also choose quarter rack, half rack, or full rack. So you pay, quarter rack is 100 OCPUs, half rack is 200, and full rack is 400 OCPUs. So those options are available. Then it's not just the shape. You also have to configure the Exadata storage, how much storage you want to be allocated, and how many storage servers you want to be allocated. That also you choose, and you build a Exadata VM cluster. The Exadata cluster you build. So for quarter rack, it'll be 2-node cluster. For half rack, I mean, it'll be 4, and a full rack will be 8. You can choose the number of nodes you want, but for quarter rack, I mean, it is 2, and 2 is the only option available for quarter rack. And with the Exadata cloud service, you have options available. I mean, you can read the data sheet. The advantage with Exadata is that, I mean, you get all of the database features, and there are very specific features like automatic indexing, or what are the ones, the snapshot carousel. Those features, and there are specific features which are available only on Exadata. So you get those features as well when you go with Exadata service. I mean, you pay for what you get. I mean, so you will be paying more, but you might have a requirement for those, so you'll go with that. We'll see when you will choose that. So those are the database options available when you choose the first menu item under the database, the hamburger menu, or pancake menu, depending on where you are. I mean, people call it the hamburger menu or pancake menu on the Oracle Cloud. So that's the VM, bare metal, or Exadata. And the most popular is VM, obviously, because that's where you have the flexibility, and they are cheaper, because it can go from 1 OCPU to 24 OCPU. If you want anything bigger than 24 OCPU, you go with the 36 OCPU bare metal or 52 OCPU bare metal, or if you want anything bigger than that, you go with Exadata Cloud Service. Okay, so that's option 1. Then option 2, autonomous database. Even with autonomous database also, you have multiple options. You can either, the first decision to make is whether you want shared infrastructure or dedicated infrastructure. With shared infrastructure is popular because that is cheaper, I mean, very much cheaper compared to dedicated. Dedicated infrastructure is basically a quarter rack or half rack or full rack of Exadata you dedicate for yourself. So the customer gets a quarter rack, half rack, or full rack of Exadata, and you provision databases over there. So that's the I mean, you can do Exadata as a service, and then do autonomous also there. So dedicated infrastructure. But shared infrastructure, you have 4 options on shared infrastructure. That is autonomous data warehouse, autonomous transaction processing, autonomous JSON database, and Apex service. I mean, this is not a database service. This is Apex service. You get a workspace. You build applications. You store data in an autonomous database, but you do not have access to the database directly. Whereas with ADW and ATP, I mean, you get access to the database. So you can build JSON tables in the ATP database. I mean, nobody's stopping you from doing that. But if your application is 100% JSON based, then yeah, go with the JSON database. So the shared infrastructure is on an Exadata in public cloud, where you get one pluggable database, and that's all you get. You do not have control over the container database or the Exadata machine. You do not have access to any of that. You get access to the pluggable database, and your pluggable database will be configured for ADW, ATP, or AJD or Apex, and that's what you get. With dedicated infrastructure, you do have access to the database VMs, where the container database is running. I mean, you can create, you can configure the clusters. You can have multiple clusters. Then you will have option to create multiple container databases, and each container database can have multiple pluggable databases. So all of that flexibility is there with the dedicated infrastructure. Sometimes when you are migrating legacy applications or some ERP applications, you might want to go with dedicated infrastructure. For example, if you are migrating JDE to Oracle, and JDE is supported on autonomous database, you might want to go with the dedicated infrastructure when you're migrating. I mean, it depends. Here is a picture of the Oracle Cloud autonomous database option. So in the autonomous database shared architecture, what you get is one pluggable database. So this is what you get. You might have other customers nearby in the same container database. You will have other customers, their workloads running. The same Exadata could have multiple container databases. That's also possible. I mean, we don't have visibility into any of this. What you have visibility and what you have access is one pluggable database. So if you are if you are concerned about the noisy neighbor problems and stuff like that, I mean, then you may want to go with the dedicated Exadata service. But this is end of the day, I mean, this is running on an Exadata machine. I mean, Exadata is powerful. Half of the work is typically run on the storage server. You have hybrid columnar compression and other Exadata features to improve the performance. So you probably do not have to worry too much about the noisy neighbor problem. But there are also other advantages with the autonomous database. One big advantage is the auto scaling. With auto scaling, you can Oracle will automatically scale up the services. If there is a need for more CPU, Oracle can automatically scale up to 3 times, and when the workload demand is over, it will automatically scale back. That is a beautiful feature of autonomous database, which is not available in the DBCS or anywhere else, where you cannot really dynamically, without outage, increase the capacity or decrease the capacity. Whereas on autonomous database, I mean, you are able to do that dynamically without disturbing your application and the existing users. So that's a big advantage there. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat window. Nothing so far. All right. These are all some of the features. I mean, you can. It's from the Oracle data sheet. Just wanted to include this here, but everything automatic. I mean, auto provisioning, auto configuration, auto indexing, auto scaling. I mean, everything auto there. Again, the question is, you will be paying a little bit more than what you normally pay on DBCS. But if you need these benefits, yeah, you pay more, a little bit more. I mean, not too much. Sometimes, I mean, it'll make sense to have the added benefit of somebody else taking care of your mundane task. Like you don't have to worry about monitoring, you don't have to worry about patching, you don't have to worry about the backups. I mean, that's something good, so that, I mean, the DBAs can concentrate on more value added activities. So that's about the autonomous database. Okay, so autonomous database. Keep in mind, you have two options: shared or dedicated. And within shared, you have four options: autonomous data warehouse, autonomous transaction processing, JSON database, and Apex service. And on dedicated, you have autonomous data warehouse and transaction processing. Those two are the database options available with the dedicated. But with dedicated, you can go with quarter rack, full rack, or half rack Exadata machine. And the last option would be cloud at customer. This is nothing but the Exadata as a service on OCI cloud. You are taking that service to your on-prem data center, to your data center. So you are taking the Exadata cloud service to the data center. That's what Exadata cloud at customer. So here also, you have the option of choosing the system, the Exadata system, X7, X8, X8M, or X9M. And they can be either base system or quarter rack, half rack, full rack. I mean, you saw the configurations earlier in a slide. The same is available for Exadata cloud customer as well. So here you can see in the left hand side, these are the options available, or these are the tasks you will be doing when you go with the cloud at customer. I mean, you have the option to create VM clusters. You can have multiple clusters on Exadata cloud at customer. I believe there is only one cluster possible with ExaCS. So you can create multiple clusters here. Each cluster can have autonomous container databases, and each container database can have autonomous databases. You create autonomous Exadata VM clusters also you can create. So VM clusters or Exadata VM clusters. So you create VM clusters, and then you create container database before you create the autonomous database. So that's infrastructure you will do on cloud at customer. Cloud at customer. This is similar to ExaCS. All right. So those are the options available. Now let's see the cost and how to choose the system. First, we start with the cost. The cost estimator is available. There is a link in my presentation. I'll share the presentation. But the cost estimator is available, where you can pretty much estimate the cost of all of the OCI services. It can be infrastructure, autonomous, database management, analytics. I mean, you name the Oracle service. I mean, you can estimate the price of running that service on OCI, an approximate cost per month, and then you can multiply by 12 to get the annual cost. So the cost estimator is available. One thing to keep in mind, I mean, because there is a dollar value associated with these licenses, is that if you go with any PaaS service, whether it is Oracle VM PaaS or bare metal PaaS or ExaCS PaaS service or autonomous database PaaS service, you get diagnostic pack, tuning pack, data masking and subsetting pack, real application testing. It's a product. So these four options, free. I mean, I shouldn't say free. They are included in the cost of the PaaS service. So when you are, I mean, this makes a difference when you are bring your own license, and you do not own diagnostic pack or tuning pack. And you want to take one of the DBaaS services where you want to bring your own license. And now, as soon as you are on OCI DBaaS, you can start using the diagnostic and tuning pack, even though you were not licensed or not allowed to do that on-prem. And you just transfer the same on-prem license to OCI. Now you are able to do that. Similarly, if you want to do data masking for your lower environments, I mean, you can do that. That Enterprise Manager pack is available as well. I mean, actually, there is no need to do that. You have Data Safe available on OCI Cloud, which includes data masking and subsetting as well. Along with the database security assessment and advisement. So you can take a look at data safe before you dig into the data masking option of OEM on OCI Cloud. Then real application testing, which obviously makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you're migrating from on-prem to OCI Cloud, if you want to test some of the workload, I mean, you replay the workload from your on-prem database into the database in the cloud. And if you are on OCI, you are not paying for, I mean, it is included with your OCI PaaS service, the real application testing license, which is highly beneficial. So I mean, these are the list prices. I mean, if you want to purchase these options when you're migrating to a different cloud, or if you want to use these options on-prem, these are the list price of these options here. I mean, usually you get 30-40% discount, but it again depends on your relationship with Oracle. But these are the list prices, and you can see the value of these services on OCI. And I mentioned earlier, I mean, this data safe also included on with OCI DBaaS and autonomous database, where you can assess the database, the user security. You can audit, and you can mask data as well. So all of that is available with DataSafe, and DataSafe works with on-prem database also, or the databases on OCI IaaS or OCI Compute Shape also. If you are having databases there, DataSafe can be configured there as well. But you have to pay for I think it's about $200 a month for a database. So but it can be configured. Okay, on the cost side. To run a database, the license included model of database standard edition, it's about $160 a month. The same with the DBCS, plain vanilla DBCS, with just the default or bare minimum options, that is the machine learning, spatial, and graph, as well as the data masking, subsetting, real application testing, Oracle diagnostic, and tuning. With that, I mean, you'll be paying double of the standard edition, that is $320. And it goes almost double if you go to the next level, that is the high performance. With high performance, you get multi-tenant option. You can create any number, multiple pluggable database. You get partitioning option. You get advanced security option. You get data vault, label security, cloud management pack, lifecycle management pack. I mean, all of that. I mean, it's a good option. HP high performance is a good option to go for critical and business critical databases. Enterprise Edition Extreme Performance. Yeah, I mean, if you want to take it to the next level, where you want to go with the Oracle Active Data Guard or Oracle Database in Memory or Oracle Real Application Clusters, then you have to go with the Extreme Performance Edition. That is almost 3 times of the Enterprise Edition cost per month. If you own any of these licenses, like Standard Edition or Enterprise Edition licenses, with whatever options you are planning to use, you can bring your own license. Then you will only be paying for the compute shape in DBCS, and that compute cost is $144 a month. So that's a rate as of December 2021. So you see the differences. So if you have licenses, if you own licenses, if you do not want to purchase more licenses, I mean, go with the bring your own license model to OCI Cloud. That's possible. So remember, it is the DBCS Extreme Edition. That comes with Oracle Active Data Guard, Oracle Real Application Clusters, Oracle Database in memory. That's about $1,000 per one OCPU. So that's what you get for that. Just keep that in mind. In the next slide also it comes where it'll be relevant when I show the next slide. Let me click. Okay. See, when you go with Autonomous Data Warehouse, it is the same cost, $1,000 for one OCPU for Autonomous Data Warehouse, where you do not have to worry about the backups. You do not have to worry about the scaling and all of that. On top of that, I mean, you get auto scaling and stuff like that. Whereas if you go with Extreme Edition, and let's assume the scenario that you have a workload, which is you say, let's say, for normal operation, day-to-day OLTP application during the business day, you need about 4 OCPU. And during the night batch window, I mean, that goes up a little bit because you have a heavy batch transaction. You load data and you do some heavy processing, and you go up to like 8 OCPU in the night. And say during the month end, I mean, you need more power because you are running some month end closing and stuff, and you need about 10 OCPU. If you're going with the DBCS option, you have to go with 10 OCPU because you cannot really change the shape whenever you want. I mean, it requires an outage, or it is not dynamic and easy to do that because you basically will be changing the shape of the compute. So you go with the standard 2.8 to standard 2.16. So that's what you will do. So it'll go from 8 OCPU to 16 OCPU. So you go with, even though you needed only 10 OCPU, you will be going with either 8 or 16, whereas your normal workload requires only 4 OCPU. And if you go with 4 OCPU shape in Extreme Edition, that is not going to be enough for your batch window, and that's not going to be enough for your month-end window. Whereas you go with Autonomous Data Warehouse, let's say, or Autonomous Transaction Processing, because it is an OLTP and batch window. You go with Autonomous Transaction Processing. That, if you go with either the 6 OCPUs that you need, you go with 6 OCPUs during the day. That will cover your online processing window without any problem. You probably do not need 6 OCPU because the database storage still is going to do some work. Let's assume that, I mean, you're not doing that. You go with 6 OCPU. But during the night window, I mean, when the demand increases, Oracle will auto scale automatically to scale up to like 10 OCPU for the batch window, or 8 OCPU for the batch window, and scale it down. I mean, it may be needed only for an hour or 2 hours. Then you will only pay for that OCPU during those 2 hours if you're doing license included model. Then during the month end window, I mean, you need 12 OCPU. Yeah, it will auto scale because you are licensed for 6 OCPU. I mean, it can go up to 6 times 3, 18 OCPUs when needed. So you have the flexibility there, especially if you are going with the license included model on EE Extreme Performance. Consider Data Warehouse because you might be cheaper going with Data Warehouse. Just a thought there. How am I doing with my time? Yeah, I'm about halfway through on time, so I think we are doing good. So these are the flavors available. Again, Autonomous Data Warehouse, Autonomous Transaction Processing, JSON, and Apex. JSON and Apex, I mean, they are services where specifically for application where you do not have much flexibility to create tables and stuff outside the application in the Apex. So that's why it is priced at $240. So it is really good. I mean, if you have a rapid Apex application, don't worry about even creating the database. I mean, you just sign up for Oracle Apex service and start loading the data, and then your application is ready. I mean, you just create multiple workspaces and go from there. So in the Apex service, I mean, you do not have support for any database clients. I mean, you cannot use SQLnet or like Toad or SQL Developer to connect to the database. You do not have access to the metadata or Oracle Machine Learning, Zeppelin Notebook, and those things are not available. Whereas Autonomous Data Warehouse and Autonomous Transaction Processing, you have access to the Oracle Machine Learning, the Zeppelin notebooks. I mean, that's available to you. So that's that. I think I have one more slide with some numbers. These are the numbers for if you're going with the higher end systems, the autonomous, dedicated, or bare metal or Exadata Cloud at Service. This is what the numbers are. Again, you don't choose these services without working with your account rep. The Oracle account rep, so where you can negotiate and get some discounts. So I mean, these are the list prices found on the website. But you see the league changes suddenly, like from $1,000 a month per one OCPU for a shared infrastructure ADW, to if you go with Exadata quarter rack, I mean, that's like $10,000 a month just for the hardware. Then you will be paying either Autonomous Data Warehouse and the storage cost on top of that. So the Exadata storage is $18 per terabyte per month. All of that you need to keep that into consideration. I mean, take that into consideration when estimating the cost of running your workloads on OCI. Sometimes when you are migrating a large number of databases and critical workloads, it does make sense to go with the Exadata cloud service or autonomous dedicated or bare metal or Oracle Cloud at Customer. That options, the high-end options, it does make sense to have that. But if you are a small customer, you want to try OCI, and if you want to migrate only a few workloads to OCI, then start with autonomous or DBCS services. That's easy to start. So those are all the PaaS and the PaaS services available. But if you wanna manage the database the same way you manage the database on-prem, that's also possible on OCI. I mean, this will be the same on Azure or AWS EC2 Cloud, where you provision the VM and you install the software, the Oracle binaries. Then you configure everything. I mean, you create the database, the container database or non-container database, and you create pluggable databases, and you bring your own license. You make sure that you are using the features that you are licensed. I mean, all of that similar to your on-prem. One advantage on OCI compared with other cloud providers is that on OCI you have true flex shapes. So the E4 flex shape, for example, bare metal also there is flex shape, but the E4 flex shape, you can go from 1 OCPU to 64 OCPU, and the memory can be anywhere from 1 GB to 1 terabyte. So 1 GB to 1 terabyte. So that flexibility is there. So if you understand your workload and you own Oracle licenses, which you are already running on-prem, you are closing down, you want to close down your data center, you want to migrate the workload to OCI, you already own the licenses, and you know that your your database is a data warehouse, and either you can go to autonomous data warehouse or DBCS with the data warehouse configuration over there. And you don't want to go to autonomous data warehouse for some reasons where the application doesn't support, or you need access to the backend database server. So autonomous data warehouse is not an option for a reason. Then you want to go with the database shape where you have higher memory footprint. Let's say your SGA requirement is only a few gig. Let's say your compute requirement is only a little, but you need a higher memory requirement because you have some in-memory workload or whatever you are trying to run. You have a higher memory requirement. You can go with the Flux shape, where you can provision, let's say, 4 OCPU and 4 times 64. That's 256 gig of memory. I mean, 4 OCPU and 256 gig of memory. I mean, that's possible with the Flex shape. Or you can go with 8 OCPU and 256 gig memory. I mean, that option is not there with the DBaaS, the VM pass option, because if you want 240 gig or 256 gig memory, you go with the shape that is 240 gig memory. I think that comes with the 16 OCPU. You cannot go below that. So if the shapes available in the pass service do not meet the requirements, your memory requirements, then you will have to go with the Flex shapes. You go with the Flex shapes and you bring your own license. And the Flex shape is compared to other clouds. The compute Flex shapes are very very cheap. You can see here. I think it's $18 a month for one CPU. $18.60, I believe. It is not 18,000 for sure. It is $18 per month is what you see for one OCPU per hour. It's 0.025 cents. That is $0.025 per hour per OCPU. So it translates to about $18 a month, and memory, 1 GB of memory is about $1 a month, $1.16 a month. So it is very very cheap. I mean, the price is much lower compared to other clouds. So it might work out to be better, cheaper for you. But again, you will have to consider either tooling available with the DBCS, either backup options available with DBCS, either the upgrade and the patching options available, all of that available with the DBCS, and the licensing, like the diagnostic and tuning pack, the encryption, all of that comes with the DBCS. Also, you need to take into consideration. And when considering the Flex shape, there is the AMD Flex or Intel Flex. I mean, that's also available. I mean, you can choose a virtual machine, and when in the virtual machine, you can choose the AMD shape or an Intel shape. The major difference is that the AMD shape, you can go from 1 OCPU to 64 OCPU. Whereas in the Intel shape, I mean, it's 1 to 24. I think I can't really read my screen, so that's a limitation you have, and the memory also. There's a difference there. Okay, so those are all the options we have seen. So we have seen the options, we have seen the cost. Now let's see how to choose the right service. I mean, you have these are the options we have: the autonomous database. 3 flavors of autonomous database, then autonomous dedicated, then bare metal, VM, Exadata cloud service, then Exadata at Oracle Cloud, that is ExaCS, then Exadata clouded customer. Those are the options available. Let's see which one is suitable for you. For you, how to pick the right service. And it's not just a service, right? I mean, Oracle Cloud. I mean, there are. It's not just the database services. I mean, there are other services available in Oracle Cloud. I mean, for developers, for application, for analytics, security, infrastructure. I mean, there are other services available. So you also need to consider. I mean, how your application is going to be configured, where your application is going to be configured, how the application is going to connect to the database services. All of that also you need to take all of that into consideration as well. But when choosing the service, I mean, I think it is appropriate to go with the elimination option. So basically, you will see the amount of workloads you want to migrate. Does it and do you have any data privacy restrictions? Sorry, I didn't change my slide. Okay. Do you have any data privacy or data control restrictions that you have? Do you have any legacy systems where you want to connect that legacy system to the Oracle database and the latency must be like really, really low? Your security or the federal FDA or regulations that restrict you from migrating to the cloud. Then if you have any of that, then you consider Exadata Cloud at Customer. That's an option to consider, Exadata Cloud at Customer. Otherwise, I don't think you should be considering Exadata Cloud at Customer because, I mean, why pay the heating and cooling cost in the data center? Just you can go to a service on OCI Cloud. But there may be reasons, I mean, why you would go with it. I mean, some of the reasons I listed here. So if your application or the applications require any of this, and then the cost is reasonable, then you consider Exadata Cloud at Customer. Otherwise, you don't consider Exadata Cloud at Customer at all. So that is one option is gone. Then the next is, I mean, do you need Exadata Cloud Service? Do you need, I mean, are you migrating heavy workloads? I mean, highly critical OLTP workload, I mean, where you need the performance and the availability are critical. I mean, do you need to run on dedicated hardware where you don't have the problem of noisy neighbor? You don't want to worry about the Exadata management, the infrastructure management, because you don't have anybody who understands Exadata. Then go with Exadata Cloud Service, the ExaCS service. So it's easy to migrate. Maybe you can you have an Exadata on-prem. You are trying to build the DR in OCI or in a public cloud. It's easy to build the DR in OCI on Exa Cloud Service if you have Exadata on-prem. So you can do that. Or today you have Exadata running on-prem. It is an X5 system which is going out of support, which is already out of support. You want to migrate to a newer version of Exadata. You really don't want to spend the money, the capex. You want to go with the OPEX model, go with the Exa Cloud Service. That's what you do. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I have to take a sip of water. So that's when you use the Exa Cloud Service. So if you do not have enough workload, or if you do not have enough need, the compute or storage or security need for an Exadata, then eliminate that service as well. So we eliminated 2 services. One thing I would mention is if you are not migrating a large amount of workloads immediately, but you have to migrate a fair amount of workload in an year or in 2 years, you can still go with the Exadata service, and then you can grow your service, right? I mean, you can start small with a quarter rack, and then especially with the M shapes, the X8 M shapes, you can start with a quarter rack, and then you can slowly increase to a half rack and a full rack. That option is available with the newer X8 M and X9 M shapes that is available. So you can start small and then grow big. So those two be eliminated, or be identified if that is what you need. I mean, you choose those systems. Then the third system, which is easy to eliminate, is bare metal. There are very few workloads that warrant a bare metal system. I mean, either you go with the Exadata system or you go with the VM system. Bare metal, you usually go with bare metal if you want to have a dedicated host where it has high CPU requirement, and you have a local memory, local disk, with high performance disk attached locally to the database. So you can go with that service, or with the VM service. One restriction is that, I mean, you can have only one database home and one container database on the VM service, whereas on bare metal service, I mean, you can have multiple database homes and multiple databases, but you can have only one database per database home, but you can have multiple database home and one database per home. But what that means is, I mean, you can have multiple databases running on one bare metal system. That gives you the opportunity to consolidate. So you don't want to go with a multi-tenancy license. You don't own a multi-tenancy license, but you still want to take advantage of the DBCS features, but you want to consolidate all your databases into one machine, and you can do that. The downside or restriction is that, I mean, all of that databases have to be they can be different versions, but they have to be the same edition. So if you go with enterprise edition, all of the databases on that VM, because you choose the VM, the edition, either the standard edition or enterprise edition or high performance or extreme performance, at the bare metal at the machine level. So all of the databases you provision will have the same option. So you can have that, and you also have the license flexibility. I mean, where you provision a 36 OCPU machine, but you provision a database which uses only 2 OCPU. I mean, you can do that. I mean, you are paying you pay for the bare metal server, the infrastructure cost, but for the license you only pay for the OCPUs that you are using. And BYOL also you can do the same there as well. So that flexibility is there. Again, you want to consolidate multiple databases into one host, and multiple smaller databases you want to consolidate into one host, where you don't want to go with the multi-tenancy model. You can go with the bare metal. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this option you will go only rarely, but that option is available for you. Then comes to the real the real options, because now these three I discussed: the clouded customer, the Exadata cloud service, the bare metal cloud service. I mean, they are all infrastructure, high-end systems, expensive systems. So you go through them with an elimination model. So once you are sure that, I mean, those three are not needed, then it is the dedicated autonomous database option also you can include in that category of the exact category. Then comes the shared option of the other options of shared autonomous database, or the different flavors of autonomous database, or the virtual machine database service. So let's see how to choose that. If you are if you are planning to go with bring your own license model, that you are doing bring your own license model, then definitely consider the VM shape. But if you are going with the license included, I mean, you are planning to purchase licenses, going with the extreme edition or extreme performance or high performance with the license included model, definitely consider the autonomous database, because it is it will make your life easier. You don't have to worry about patching, you don't have to worry about backups, and the performance is super good on, because it is running on Exadata platform. There are a lot of Exadata features available, so definitely consider that. I mean, it is not much expensive, as you have seen. It might even, in the long run, it might work out to be cheaper than the high performance or extreme performance, because with high performance and extreme performance, it is a model where you have to dedicate certain number of CPUs for the duration. I mean, that CPU flexibility is not there. When the system is up, you will have that many CPUs. When the system is down, I mean, yeah, you are not paying for those CPU the licenses. Whereas on autonomous database, you can lower the number of CPUs when you have lower workload. It can be dynamically done, programmatically done, or you can scale up manually, programmatically, or Oracle can do that automatically for you as well. So definitely consider the autonomous data warehouse or autonomous transaction processing if you are considering a license included model, because you get that that benefit and flexibility, and it will come out to be cheaper in the long run. When you are migrating an on-prem database to Oracle Cloud, definitely give a consideration for autonomous data warehouse. The only downside I see with autonomous database when you are doing bring your own license model is that you must have multi-tenancy license to do bring your own license to autonomous data warehouse or autonomous transaction processing. I mean, it doesn't really make sense in my little mind, but that's what Oracle has today. Um, uh, so even if you're going with the one OCPU shared database, and if you want to do bring your own license, you must own multi-tenancy license. Which is a blocker, because many of my customers do not have multi-tenancy license. They do own enterprise license. They do own partitioning. They do own. They might own rack licenses. They own diagnostic and tuning, all of that. But they are on 11.204. They upgraded to 12.1. They are planning to upgrade to 19C, but they don't own multi-tenancy. But even with the 19C, they are planning to use up to 3 pluggable databases, which is included with 19C. So at least 1 or 2 OCPUs, if they come without the multi-tenancy license, it would have been beneficial. But right now, this is what it is. If you are taking bring your own license to autonomous database, ADW or ATP, you must own multi-tenancy license. And if you're going beyond 16 OCPU, you must also own a real application cluster rack license as well. So keep that in mind when you're doing bring your own license. But if you're doing license included model, definitely consider data warehouse and autonomous data warehouse when migrating there. When to consider autonomous JSON database, for obviously, as the name says, when the application it's a JSON development, and you want a native JSON storage with the full SQL and ACID transaction support, or you can also do Apex on the database. JSON and Apex, I mean, like those services you use for development, where you are doing rapid development or modern application development, you choose that service. So that is very specific. Apex and JSON, these are very specific services. So you go with those services only if you have these needs. Then VMDB system. I mean, that's where most of the workloads will go to VMDB system. But comparing when deciding the VM versus autonomous ATP versus IaaS Flex, you have to take into consideration the licensing, the packs available, the one CDB per VM. You can have multiple pluggable database in the CDB if you go with EEHP. The 99.5% SLA is available, but you will take down the systems for patching. You will use the tooling available on the VM system, like the DBaaS CLI or DB CLI tool available on the VM system for your patching, but you still have outages when you are applying patches and stuff. And IaaS Flex is just like on-prem. I mean, you do everything over there, and the cost and the licensing, everything is similar to on-prem. Whereas if you go with autonomous shared, you have 99.95% SLA. That uptime includes patching, upgrades. I mean, not a version upgrade, but patching and everything, maintenance, patching, all of that. So definitely more availability than VM DB system. I think I have a few more minutes to go through and show an example of OCI migration and and the different the difference in the services and the cost. Let's say, I mean, the green box on the left is my on-prem database system. So I have how many hosts I have? S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6. 6 database servers, and I have 6 databases also running. 3 development databases. They are S1, D01, D02, D03. Those are my development databases, and they are about anywhere from 2.2 terabyte to 4 terabyte in size. They all have 20 gig of SGA, and the server has 8 cores, that is 16 vCPU. It has 128 GB RAM. It's a physical machine. The host utilization is about 50%. And when we run they don't own diagnostic and tuning packs, so we cannot run AWR reports, but we can run stats pack. We ran the stats pack to figure out what is the maximum number of CPUs needed, and it comes out to be around 4 CPUs, 4 vCPUs for the D01 database, and 2 or 3 for 2 and 3 databases 2 and 3. Similarly, production is a rack database. I mean, they own the rack license, and the database is about 3.5 terabyte. I mean, they have SGA target of 60 gig. That is 60 plus 60, 120 gig of SGA. They have 128 gig RAM on each machine. The utilization is about 70-80%. So from the stats pack report, I mean, their peak workload, it needs about 24 CPUs. I mean, right now they have 32 vCPUs. I mean, so the requirement is about 24 vCPUs is the requirement. Similarly, they have a non-prod or a test system that's also rack. It is also 8 plus 8 rack, and there is a DR system which is running in another region. That one has 8 CPUs, 64 gig RAM. So this is what they have today. They are using 36 cores, which require 18 enterprise edition licenses. So they own 20 enterprise edition licenses, 20 partitioning licenses, and 12 rack licenses is what they own. Let's assume they would have paid anywhere around $1 million or $800,000 for those licenses a few years back. whatever. I mean, just an estimate. I mean, anywhere like $600,000-$800,000 for that licenses. But they own that. I mean, they've been running on-prem for the last 5 years. Now they are ready to migrate to the cloud. So when you are looking at the estimates, these are the shapes I would go with when you are migrating to a VM shape or ATP shape or IaaS shape. So let's say if you're going with IaaS, let me show my pointer. When you're going with an IaaS shape here, that's a IaaS flex shape. So I have the flexibility of provisioning 4 OCPU, 128 gig RAM, and whatever storage I need. So for S1, that's my this system. I mean, I can migrate to the systems as is to the cloud, S1, and have the 3 databases as is on the same host. And I can go with the same 128 gig RAM with 4 OCPU. That translates to around 8 vCPU because that's probably what I will need. So I have about 8 vCPUs available. I will go with that. S2 machine, that's my production machine. I don't want rack. I will provision 16 OCPUs there. I mean, I could have gone a little bit lower, but to be on the safer side, I mean, I'm provisioning 16 OCPUs with 256 gig of memory. Then S4 is my test database. I'll go with the 4 OCPU, 64 memory, and S6 8 OCPU and 128. So that adds up to how many OCPUs? That is 32 OCPUs here. I have enough license to cover all of this. So I'm good. Because I mean, I'm sized a little bit higher because I have enough licenses, and the OCPU cost is not much on OCI. The flex cost is not much. I mean, it's only like $18 a month. So I go with a little bit higher OCPU. That gives me peace of mind. So that's my sizing for the flex shape. If I go with ATP model, I would go with the D1 database, D2 database, and D3 database because they all will be like 3 different databases. So I would go with 2 OCPU because I mean I need 4. I mean I can even go with 1 OCPU and maybe auto scale it. I can go with 2 OCPU. I can go with 1 OCPU. I can go with 1 OCPU here. For production, I can go with 8 OCPU. The rest it will auto scale. For test, it will go with 2 OCPU. And DR, I mean, I don't really worry about the DR at this time because I mean, Autonomous Database also has the DR option. I can choose that, or I will go with the default SLA, which is good enough for me. If you're going with the PaaS service, again, I cannot have multiple databases in the same system. I can have multiple container databases. I mean, that's an option. Because it is a 12.1.02 database, I'm not planning to upgrade at this time. I want to migrate. I mean, with the 12.1.02, if I go with the pluggable databases, multiple pluggable database in the CDB, I must have a multi-tenancy license, which I don't have. So I am going with the 3 different database systems. And in the future, when I upgrade to 19C, I can go with the 1 container database and then have all 3 databases in that container. But it all depends on the number of CPUs anyway. So I'm fine with the 3 different servers. So I go with the 2 CPUs each. And that gives me 30 gig of memory. I mean, that's fine to have a 20 gig STA or a little bit less than that. That's fine. And then I go with these machine shapes for the DR and test and production. So production, I have to go with the 16 OCPU 240. Again, my licenses will cover all of this. So I'm good here. And looking at the that's my sizing part. So looking at the numbers, the dollar numbers. I mean, sorry, I have everything in US dollars here. If I go with the shapes I shown you in the previous slide, I mean that's what you see at the top. So the IaaS VM, so I go with the bare metal VM, E4 OCPU, E4 RAM, and the fast connect, the block storage, the blocks, the performance unit, all of that. I mean, it comes to around like $2,200 or $2,300 per month. I mean, it's damn cheap compared to it. I mean, if you are migrating to it, but the cost you need to take into consideration is also you are not getting a diagnostic and tuning. I mean, it is same as on-prem. So if you want to live the life of an on-prem DB or the on-prem system in OCI cloud without the cloud benefits and without the PaaS benefits, yeah, you are fine. I mean, you are spending only $2,300 a month. You get the infrastructure in Oracle Cloud. You do whatever you used to do on-prem. You are maintaining all of that. You are doing all of that. Then you are fine. I mean, you have that. You spend $2,300. Whereas if you go with the DB system model, before I jump into like, I mean, if you go with the ATP model, you go with you need 14 OCPUs. You are spending about $7,000 a month if you go with the bring your own license. But you cannot really do bring your own license because you do not own the multi-tenancy license. But I can purchase the multi-tenancy license. Maybe I negotiate with Oracle. This $150,000 comes down to like about $75,000 or $80,000. Yeah, I'm fine to shell that amount. I go with the multi-tenancy license. Then I go with the bring your own license model or OCPU. That is about $7,000 per month. So that's my option. If I go with the license included, I mean, then I will forfeit, I mean, whatever I own. But the advantage is that I don't have to pay that $175,000 support fee that I'm paying every year to Oracle for the license I own. I stopped paying that. So there is $175,000 saving there. Then you pay $17,000 a month for the license included ATP model. Then if you go with the VM DB system, I mean, this is what you need, and these are the models you need. 34 OCPU. So if you do bring your own license model, I mean, you are spending about $6,000 a month. If you do license included with high performance, it comes to around $23,000. So with the license included, you see the difference here. The license included with ATP is much lower because we don't need that many OCPUs, so it is much lower here. Whereas with the license included model with the VM system, because we have to go with specific shapes, we have to have a limited number of a number of OCPUs. We must have a certain number of OCPUs, so the cost is this. That's where the cost difference comes, and sometimes ATP will work out cheaper than your enterprise edition high performance database. Anyway, so when you are considering the PaaS model, if you are thinking about IaaS versus PaaS, or IaaS versus, I mean, bring your own license versus license included. Let's take the same example. I mean, here this customer is owning like 20 enterprise edition, 20 partitioning, and 20 rack licenses. This customer is paying about $175,000 a year on support fee, and I mean that translates to how many, like about 175 30,000 or 15,000 a year, right? 15,000 a month. That is what they are paying today. If they wanna continue that support, that is 15,000 a month. So so you add that 15,000 on top of this 6,000. That's 21,000 there. But if you go with the license included model, I mean, it's only 23,000. I mean, which brings you other benefits where with the high performance you have other benefits. I mean, like other options of advanced security and audit vault and other features available as well. So take into consideration all of that. I mean, sometimes what you see in the numbers here, I mean, this may not be the number in the long run. Always have a worksheet and run that numbers, put the numbers in a worksheet, and then before you deciding the service, either the features you need to consider, but the cost also you need to consider before choosing the right workload on OCI. So in summary, I got 6 more minutes, but I'm going to end here with the service, how you choose the service. The first thing to consider is what is your license and entitlement and how many OCPUs or vCPUs you need on the Oracle Cloud. Do you own diagnostic and tuning pack? That's the main thing. And regular application testing. I mean, that also helps with your migration testing and upgrade testing and all of that. Do you own that? Are you going to use that? Or consider using that when you're migrating to the cloud? I mean, those are really good options. So when you add the price of that, I mean, does it really make sense to buy those licenses separately and or go with the license included model on the OCI cloud? TDE, I mean, transparent data encryption, very important security. It's automatically configured and enabled on ADB and DBCS. Consider that. Then autonomous shared versus VM instance versus IaaS Flex. I mean, those are the options, the numbers we saw. Those three are similar services. I mean, you would say they are similar services, but put the numbers down in an Excel spreadsheet and see the value. I mean, what makes a difference, and then go with the right. We choose the right service. Whether you want to go with the database consolidation. I mean, do you want to have multiple databases in a container on an IaaS, multiple databases, or you want to go with the license included model with multi-tenancy and multiple pluggable databases? So you manage one container versus managing multiple databases. Then consider the database management and the database patching activities, how you monitor, how you patch, how often you want to do that, all of that. Then the DR, I mean, like consider if you are planning to migrate to the DR to OCI, I mean, consider the source hardware. I mean, if it is running on an Exadata system, consider an Exadata on OCI. If it is something else, yeah, I mean, VM systems will be enough. And so do that. So those are the things to consider when choosing. Hope I explained it in detail, and hope it makes sense. What things to look for. If I don't know, I do not see any questions here yet, and we are almost out of time anyway. So if you are watching this presentation in a replay mode later than today, today is December 11th. If you're watching this a later date, you can always reach me with any questions. My email address is not listed here, but my email address is biju.thomas@gmail.com. But these are my Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and blog. You can contact me through any of this medium. I'll be happy to answer and help you with an OCI migration, or for that matter, any cloud migration. I'll be happy to help you and guide you and provide my advisement. Or if you have any suggestions, or if you have seen any problems with the cloud migration, I would like to know that as well. With that, I want to thank APAC OUC for this opportunity, especially the chief, Francisco, for personally monitoring and managing this session, and spending his time. Last month, he has been very busy with the Groundbreakers tour. Thank you, Francisco, for your help, for your dedication to the community, and thank you to all the board members of APAC OUC for this opportunity and for helping the community. Thank you very much. I hope that's the case. If there are no questions, we are at a good place to end.
Thank you so much, Biju. I just checking if anything comes through Facebook. No, thank you so much. And if anyone do not want to ask by the chat, but want to ask directly Bijou, please feel free to ask him and the contact information that's in screen. And also, if you're watching one of the replays that will be available by the system until December 30, please feel free to contact Bijou if you have any questions to his contact details on the screen. And looks like no questions are coming through, Bijou. I know it's late, getting late for you too, and I really appreciate to be sharing all this information, all this great presentation with our Asia Pac and global community. And thank you so much for that. And please take care and be safe. And all the best to you and everyone. And have a good night, good morning, or good evening, wherever everybody is around the world.
Yep. Thank you, Francisco. Yep. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
CloudDB, shaping your new normal.